Welcome to the Pause with Pythian podcast. I'm your host, Pythian Priestess. Breathe in, tune in, and let's take a sacred pause together. The time is now. Let us begin. Hey everyone, I wanted to give a little pre-show note that you want to turn up your volume for this episode. Unfortunately, I'm having a little bit of learning curve with my new equipment and the sound quality is not the best. So I apologize and I hope you can hear everything. If you're struggling with hearing, I recommend watching the YouTube video where you can read the captions. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to Pause with Pythian. This is our first interview that we're doing here, and I'm so happy that Robert decided to come and join us today. I've known Robert for about 2 years now. I've been so honored to teach at his store up in Clovis, California. Someone that I've learned a lot from just by hearing him talk, and I thought who better to bring to talk about meditation than Robert. So welcome and thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So you said something interesting before we hit the play button. You said you're kind of an unusual practitioner when it comes to meditation, and the traditional meditations didn't work for you. Tell me more about that.
I'm an unusual practitioner no matter what it is. I'm much more experiential than book learned. So with meditation, when they tell you things like meditate on this chakra and use the seed syllable, or they have all these visualizations that they want you to do, those were hard for me because I didn't really have visualization skills.
Mm.
Um, There was maybe some Aphantasia or maybe just I never used that muscle before. I don't know. So what I learned to do instead of doing all those things is just to concentrate on whatever I wanted and stay within that parameter. So if I was concentrating on meeting a particular deity, I would just focus on that deity, what I thought the deity looked like, what symbols might be around, and I'm able to focus really well. And eventually that broke me through. So it was none of the really formal meditation.
Yeah, that is very different. So, for those of our listeners who don't know what aphantasia is, it is the inability to visualize. So, you think that maybe you had a little bit of that, and that's why the traditional meditations just didn't hit as hard.
I think so, but I cured that in an unusual way too, which is I'm a
Mhm.
chronic pain guy. At
Yeah.
some point, they put me on a pain medication called tramadol. And tramadol has a weird effect with me, which is you don't go to sleep, or at least I didn't.
Oh.
I would sit right between being asleep and having a dream, just where the vision of a dream starts, and I'd stay there all night long. And so that was my first clue there was something unusual about this medication. Then I learned how to sleep through it, which was fine. But I learned that once I was taking that and I was meditating, the images became clearer and clearer, and they were not my images anymore.
I
So I
understand.
would not recommend putting yourself in 30 years of chronic pain to get tramadol. I'm just,
No.
there's a lot of ways to get there that you have to experience if you're having trouble.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I have a very vivid imagination. So visualization for me was kind of normal. And so learning from someone who learned to create that skill and build that skill is really cool. Can you tell me some of the ways that you did it?
One, if it's just a state, you are giving you're allowing your physical body to participate. For instance, if I'm holding a pyramid crystal, I'm letting my fingers touch things. And then after a while, when you're focusing on something else, you can begin to feel it.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of like blind people, right? Like when they
Mhm.
want to learn someone's face, they touch it like all around and like
And,
kind of memorize it.
and,
Interesting.
and the
Um,
other thing I think you're referring to is pictures. When I couldn't when I kept receiving questions about Aphantasia, I didn't have direct experience solving that problem. I just went and asked Spirit, "Hey, everybody's asking this question. What do I say?" They gave me the answer of create a picture of your magical visualization and stare at that the same way you'd be staring at it if the image was in your head. And it seemed to work for a lot of people.
Amazing. It's really cool that you were able to connect to a higher guide to help people who, from what I've received many questions and I was always like, wow, I don't know.
I don't know is a perfectly good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that when you start working with meditation too, you get to see a change in yourself. For me, it's been finding gratitude and peace in a chaotic world. What are some of the benefits that you get out of meditation?
Capability.
Whoa, tell me more about that.
When I first got involved with formal magical practices, I was in a weird dynamic. I was with one group of people who really didn't like me very much. And anything that I did that was magical or any idea that I had seemed to be immediately discounted. So when I meditated and I was in my own head by myself, and then I perceived myself to be receiving wisdom from the meditations and guidance on how to live life, whether I could actually follow it or not, I didn't care. It was good advice that didn't come from me. Those meditations began to show me that I was capable of things. And then once I realized I was capable of things, I began to see them in the rituals that I was doing, that I was capable of doing things.
Yeah, and it sounds like too you had to have that belief in yourself. Like it came from you, not an external validation, which probably made it stronger.
I think so. I hate the term belief, and I hate the term belief in yourself. Um, I much prefer self confidence because belief is really weak. If I believed I could do things and I couldn't do them, that would make me delusional. One of my things is you have to accept you're praying to is capable of hearing you, capable of responding, and willing to. Which think it can get you there with just the bad word belief that you're going to make progress. Because you have to start somewhere, but you should actually see physically manifesting results. Whether those physically manifesting results are simply wisdom that you can apply to your life or what we'd more conventionally call magic. And once you do that, it's no more faith and belief, it's an approach towards a skill set.
I see what you're saying. So, in tarot terms, we're not working with the aces. We're working with the nines and the tens, the manifestation of the bad belief into material progress and skill set. So do you meditate every day? I don't. I meditate like bi-daily.
I have meditated every day.
Mhm.
I go through cycles. Well, I remember there was a time when I was practicing style hermetic order of the Golden Dawn that it's 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and I'm in my temple space practicing my lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And for some reason, my teacher and his now wife showed up at my door at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I have no idea why. I can't remember. It's very unusual. And the answers, they said, "Hey, we came to give these to Robert." And he's like, and she's like, "Well, okay, I'll take him, but he's in his temple space right now. I can't disturb him." And they're like, "He's in a temple at 8 o'clock in the morning?" All right. And she's like, "Yeah, he always does that." And so there's periods where I just work super hard.
Mhm.
And if I wasn't at my day job, I was reading or practicing some kind of magic. And then it's like I just hit this wall and it stopped.
Mm.
But for like 10 years, I was like every day for a long time. because the skills I have are not innate to me. A lot of people are born at being able to astral project or meditate or whatever. Every single thing I can do, I had to look at.
Mm.
And I maybe work too hard at it. But anyway, that's how I got you now.
Did you hurt yourself?
Not during that period of time.
Okay.
Um, I hurt myself not from working too hard. So I can't remember how many years ago, forever. And one of the I no, I was working one job. I was working a night shift at the IRS, and it was a temporary job that was about to end, another job, and I didn't know what to do. So I just did a lecture invoking ritual of pentagram, and I told the angels, give me a job where I can be financially comfortable for the rest of my life. That was the whole thing. The next day, I get a call from a company I interviewed a year me, but then their son-in-law wanted the job and they gave it to him. So then they had another position. They called me. I say, sure, I'll do that. And it was a manufacturing job. I was making rubber stamps. And at that job, a 40-pound box fell and I caught it back and just crashed my back. So that's been 35 years worth of pain or some such thing. But that injury got me out of that job. I started because when you're a middle workers comp, you can't really work, but you got to move if you have a bad. You can't just sit there. I volunteered for politics, Fresno County for Ross Perot, as then, but he took his dive. I ran it for Clinton Gore. When I ran it for Clinton Gore, I met this other guy. I worked in his first campaign. And then I applied for a job at my local county government. And the guy sitting across the table was that candidate's best friend that I got hired. And from there, I had a county career and I'm retired now. So I am financially comfortable, but it put me through this journey.
There's so much to take away from that. Like you said, that there's recklessness sometimes and maybe an unearned confidence that comes with natural ability. And
Mhm.
it also teaches us, like, even though we want something, it might not come in the way that we think it will.
Oh, magic rarely comes in the way we think it will. That's the
I
fun
don't know if
part.
everyone would agree with us on that, but I agree with you. Some of the books that are up here, the authors say that once you cast a spell, you should meditate on it. For me personally, I can visualize quite well. And so I visualize the sigil I have created to activate it on the astral plane. And then I repeat that process every night for two weeks. And then I will burn it either on the new or the full moon. When you do spell work, do you do any meditation?
Beforehand, I do
Mm,
to make sure I actually want what I think I want. Also, meditate on the best method of doing what I want to do. After that, though, I generally don't. Um, there, and part of that is because I was always taught the
mm,
first thing you have to do after casting a spell is forgetting you cast it. So you don't leave anything laying around. You cast the spell. The first thing you do is you clean up
mhm,
your candles and your altar top and all that. You get those out of sight. And then you find something else to do. You go watch an interesting movie, go bowling, who knows what you're going to do. But you're going to do something
mhm.
that gets your mind off of it so it releases. It doesn't stop the spell, but it has a tendency to slow it down. And that can be a good thing. Like if I'm building a protection wall, I want to slow it down, right? I want to on my first layer of bricks, and then I want the mortar to be solid, and the second layer of bricks, and just build it one at a time. So on that, I might do the same spell over and over and over and over
Yeah, I see what you're
again
saying.
because I'm trying to build a thicker and thicker and thicker wall.
The model that I use specifically is when I'm working with clients. I want them to, again, I know it's not your favorite word, but I need them to have confidence and belief that this will work. we're both charging it at the same time. Um, and of course, by the end of the 2 weeks, I'm like, I don't even know what this sigil means, but I know what it looks like, and then we do the release. So I have also, read and talked to other practitioners who agree that you should forget about a spell as soon as you cast it. And I think that's true in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
there's so many different ways for magic to work. I've got an ADHD brain. I talk about everything. But I've learned that I used to have a blog called Doing Magic many years ago, and I just typed everything out, and I had a hard time getting things to manifest back then. And then I shifted. I have one friend that I will tell I'm doing X, Y, or Z because he's the person that and make sure that my head's not going off the rails, right? So he generally was informed, and now I just do stuff without telling anybody. And I have found not telling anybody works a heck of a lot better, but it's a discipline I'm learning because I'm somebody who wants to talk to other practitioners, whether they're well, more or less skilled than I am, and get input and make changes and understand other people's perspectives and all this kind of stuff before I work. And while that makes logical sense, it's respectful of others and all that, I found it doesn't really work that way. It's all got to be yourself, or at least for me.
I spoke to one of my mentors about the silence rule across occultism. And one of the things that they explained it to me, it's like having a white garment and like it's pure, right? It's pure with you as you're holding it. And then you let people touch you, it gets dirtier and dirtier and it becomes less white. And this goes for like magic, sometimes abilities and stuff like that. And I was like, I understand. Like it needs to stay. And I know that word pure is also problematic in some ways, but it does need to stay clean in that way.
The other thing was you mentioned not being able to sit still is a walking meditation. And I am a big proponent of walking meditations, but I'm a big proponent of doing them indoors because the first time I did one, I was in a yoga studio and they just taught me, you know, pay attention to your heel hitting the floor, your foot rotating, going up in the balls of your feet, lifting your leg while you're paying attention to what the other foot is doing. Just focus on that. And it didn't take too long before I realized I had two parts of my mind. One was working on the meditation, and the other believed I could walk straight through a wall. And the longer I did it, the more I believed I could walk straight through a wall. And there was just like 1% of me left who says, no, you're going to break your nose if you try that. Right. I've often wondered if that 1% wasn't there, could I have walked through the wall? I don't know. But I've also made me realize if you do that outside, you might walk right in front of a bus. So that walking meditation, though, if you can't sit still, it gives your body area to move, but it also keeps your mind occupied on the meditation. And you don't always have to walk. You can sit there in meditation and do this. The concentration is moving your hands, and the rest of it is just normal meditation. You're just giving a routine and easily repeatable way for your energy to get out so you control the way it's getting out instead of it forcing you up and out of your chair and off to do the dishes or whatever.
I see what you're saying too. So for the purposes of what we're talking about, meditation is your focus on one thing. And for this case, whether it's your hands moving, whether it's your foot lifting up and feeling the bones move, which I like a lot more than other walking meditations I've heard where you're looking outside of yourself. I think that for the purposes that for ADHD, like getting into the body is a good idea.
I agree. I think you have to. I was always pretty good at not moving. That's not one of my ADHD things. But I realized that when I tried doing the hand thing, it focused for a lot longer. And I haven't done the hand thing in years and years and years, but it was very effective at the time. And I think it's a good bridge, like discursive meditation is a bridge because now, like we started, if I'm trying to get in contact with deity or a specific energy or whatever, I can think around that whole topic without veering off to anything unrelated. And if I do get something that might be unrelated, I kind of mentally ask the question, is this new information or am I losing my meditation? And so you get that always aware balance that you have to keep yourself from going off the rails.
Right. Hmm. When you're doing a kind of cleansing meditation, does your ADHD affect that at all?
In the aspect that when ADHD is flaring up, it always with me comes with insecurity.
Mm. Mhm.
And so it's really hard when you're not feeling like you're the world's best human,
Mhm.
or you're remembering a mistake you made 15 years ago.
We all have that.
Yeah. So PhD for me, it's kind of one of those things that it was a driving point. I felt so about myself. I got into magic to fix it,
Right.
right? But what I didn't realize is that deep need to fix feeling bad about myself interfered with my magic because it's really hard to do magic when you feel like crap about yourself. It's kind of like this big circle. And so when it comes to cleansing meditation, if I'm in ADHD mode, which is rare anymore, um, I don't do them. I might do a banishing ritual because I'm moving that I can picture my insecurities being outside,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't approach that as a meditation at this point.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's a difference between meditating and doing magic for sure.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes they're in conjunction, but not all the time. I 100% agree. It's very hard to do meditation or magic when you feel bad about yourself. I
Mhm.
think one of the hardest things is like when you're falling asleep at night and you feel bad about yourself and you can't sleep and you know that you're going to wake up at 6 hours and 3 minutes and you're going to feel like crap the next day.
Uh-huh.
I find the thing that helps me the most in those moments is just literally in the nose and out the mouth. Even if it feels so hard just to open your mouth and let the air out, like that very simple focus on the body. Inhale through the nose and then feel it coming out the mouth. It's all about being in the body because we're not in our body anymore.
Exactly. And I'm a phone guy, and I really have to put the thing down. And even when I put the thing down, remembering to pay attention to my body is really hard because my goal has always been soul contact and getting my immortal soul manifested here on this earth,
Yeah.
which is a worthy goal, but it manifests through the body, through your behavior. And so you can't no, I forget the body all the time. It's
Yeah.
something I'm still working on.
I think we in the 21st century, um, we're feeling a lot of the effects of the neglect of the body. And of course, that gets into like a whole systematic problem in America. But regardless, like meditation is a gift for you and for your body, as well as your spirit.
And I've never been a fan of getting rid of the ego. To me, the ego is the vehicle that expresses your soul.
Yes, I agree.
So it's not getting rid of it, it's teaching it to align with who you are at a deeper level. Because an unaligned ego, all it does is try to keep you alive in weird ways.
Yeah.
That's really all it does. And that's why, like, if for instance, you and I had some sort of falling out, the egos are like, oh, what a horrible thing because now nobody's ever going to like me on TikTok again. And I'm feeling alone and abused and all this kind of stuff. And it makes sense from 20,000 years ago where you needed your village,
Yes.
right? So you had to get along with everybody or you wouldn't eat. That is no longer true. And so your ego, if there's some sort of falling out, might get me to lie to you or present myself in a different way that is more outside of myself than whatever my ego mistake is that caused the problem in the first place. And it just takes you on this path as opposed to saying, oh, my ego did this because it thought I was going to die if this happened. Oh, well, that's silly. And once you realize what your ego is afraid of, it's pretty easy to make it go away. And so all you're doing is tuning your ego to align with your soul. You're not trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, I like that analogy and that explanation a lot. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a pleasure talking to you. I've learned so much about how to overcome ADHD, even though I don't have it personally, and help. I don't even know if overcome is the right word. I'm sorry. Is that the right word to use there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Overcome. Good. I
Yeah.
don't get offended easy.
So learning how to meditate with ADHD, what's going to help so many people who listen to this podcast, because that's the one thing I really want to focus on here is like, it's not about being perfect. It's about doing the thing, no matter like what your situation is.
Be perfect will ruin everything. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And can you tell people where they can find you online? Where can they follow you?
TikTok is 559 YN, the Open Eye Mystic Shop. YouTube is the same, and so is Instagram.
Very cool. And I will drop all of that below in the show notes, everyone. If you have ADHD, let us know. Tell us down in the comments about how you plan on using this episode to help you meditate with ADHD. Thank you, everyone. And I hope you find peace today.